So, welcome to the Business Alliance Inc. podcast. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Mike Funaro, who is a registered franchise consultant. Pleasure to have you here, Mike.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about your history and how you got started in this business.
Sure. The short version is I've owned 23 of my own companies over a 4-decade span. And I sold my last business, just about 8 years ago at the ripe old age of 56, and was contemplating what to do next, exploring business opportunities and trying to, chart a new path. I wasn't ready to quite ride off into the sunset yet. And looking at business opportunities, my wife grounded me. She said, no more businesses for you. You're done. I don't want to be a rich widow. So you need to either slow down or find something else to do. So went out onto the ubiquitous world of the internet and stumbled across something that said, hey, something about franchise consulting, which I knew nothing about. I should also mention that I've been a licensed business broker here in the state of Florida for many years. Was not all that active. I basically kept my business broker license so I had access for my own purposes. But so I stumbled across this franchise consulting industry almost by accident through an internet search. And that's how I was introduced to the Business Alliance just a little over 8 years ago through serendipity. And that's how I arrived on the doorstep of the Business Alliance.
And were the businesses that you owned franchise businesses or independent?
2 of them were franchise businesses, and quite honestly, franchises were not my favorite type of business because I'm a bit of a rule breaker. I like the entrepreneurial side of it, but
so why did you decide to join Business Alliance Inc.?
I really thought initially that it was going to be an add-on to my business brokerage, because I decided at that point that I was going to be a full-time business broker and charged off in that direction. And I said, well, if anybody ever asks about franchises, I'll have that opportunity in my tool bag. I really had low expectations. I thought this might be a small 10% add-on to my business brokerage. And, I wrote the check with low expectations, jumped into Business Alliance and said, well, if it works out, great. And, now truthfully, it's 90 to 95% of what I do. I do very little business brokerage. And my work now is almost exclusively in the franchise industry.
What caused that shift? Why did it become the dominant revenue stream for your business?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was not really by choice or with a lot of thought. It's just an evolutionary process that I found the work to be considerably less emotionally charged. I get to work in short pants out of my house every day. The business brokerage world, you're out doing site visits and, it's emotionally charged, and you also are dealing with people, face to face in person in most cases. I like the anonymity of working with people that are, 1,500 miles away. It's just a lot easier and less emotionally charged. I found the commissions to be exponentially larger in the franchise industry than they were in the business brokerage world. And not that what we do is by any stretch easy, but it was certainly easier than the business brokerage side.
And I know that what sets Business Alliance Inc. apart from other franchise brokerages is the amount of training and support that they provide. Being that you didn't have any experience in franchise brokerage and franchise consulting, did you use that support? Did it benefit you in the early days of getting established?
Yes and no. For me, I took a lot of shortcuts when I got started. I thought I knew everything. I didn't really need to pay a whole lot of attention to the to the training. And to be quite honest, the training the Business Alliance gives today is dramatically different and light years better than it was 8 years ago. So I took a lot of shortcuts. I thought I knew everything there was to know and was smarter than everybody else, which, really was a detriment to my growth as a franchise consultant. And I had to go back after 2 or 3 months and kind of admit to myself that I took too many shortcuts and retool all of that all over again. So I lost probably 2 or 3 months worth of effort at the beginning of my franchise consulting career because of dumb arrogance.
Well, that's probably also why why franchise systems weren't your favorite.
Yeah, to a large degree. But truth be told, once I got back and said, I'm going to treat this franchise consulting business the same way that I have every other business in my career, with basic business acumen overlaid over the franchise consulting, then everything made sense for me because I was not treating it like a business, and I was treating it more like a hobby. And that's, I think, something that a lot of folks make the mistake of when they come into this, is that they don't treat it like a business. The word consultant by nature paints a different picture than it actually being a business. So I run it like a business now. I have to go to work every day. I have to do basic one-on-one stuff. I have to treat myself as my own employee, and I hold myself accountable for the results that I produce, just the same way I would with any employee that's ever worked for me over 40 plus years.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What's the day-to-day like for you?
The freedom is probably the number one thing that I like about this. The money's great and all that, but it's for me, it's less about that than it is about being able to help people and the freedom that I have. The entire business of franchise consulting is run off of this little device over here. So I love the freedom of it. You're not tied to a desk. I can do work calls when I'm out walking on the beach. My wife and I travel a lot. So day in the life, every day is different. I can I can slam my foot on the gas or take it off as I feel the need to do for personal reasons. So my day in the life is typically, I get up early. I'm an early riser. I get all my busy work out of the way while everybody's sleeping. So I send out all my emails, all my responses. It's a lot of follow up and a lot of information gets shared through email. So I try to get most of that done. By 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm off exercising. I usually go get lost for 2 or 3 hours. I go to a yoga class. I walk on the beach. I do stuff. I get back mid-morning. I usually by then have quite a few phone messages to respond to. I do work during the day, and then mid-afternoon, I'll go play golf. I'll go hang out, and it gets busy again, 4 to 6 in the afternoon. So that's a simple way that I work. It works for me. It's not a 9 to 5 business. I take many calls Saturdays and Sundays, evenings, because you either have the proactive portion of the business where you're actively engaging, trying to get people to engage with you. But the reactive portion of it is when your clients and your candidates are responding to you, and that can happen at any time. So you have to be reactive to that or not.
I think anybody would be jealous of that kind of flexibility and work-life balance. But let's talk about the types of conversations that you have. Are you getting calls from first-time entrepreneurs, from people who own a lot of businesses and want to expand their portfolios? What kind of conversations do you have with people?
It's another thing that I truly love about this business, because every candidate is different. I work with high level, senior level, C level executives that are moving out of their life careers and have an interest in exploring business ownership. You have first-time business buyers that have never owned a business in their life. They're young married couples. I do quite a bit of international work. I love working with people that are trying to enter the United States with a business visa. That's terribly exciting for me. But I don't think there's no profile for any candidate that I work with. And to some degree, you can control that by the marketing that you do and where you market and who you market to. You can attract specific types of buyers. There are folks that I know in our industry that market heavily to in the veteran community, and they like working with veterans. Franchisers love veterans, and it's a great place to market. So you can market specifically to people that are coming out of the military service in the United States, as an example.
And I know that you've been in this business for 8 years, and I would imagine you have a pretty strong and established way of marketing. But when you were in the early days of this, how did you get clients, and how did you market to people?
Everything that I learned about marketing in this industry, I learned from somebody else. You know, it's not, you don't have this, it's not book learned. It's not something you go to college to learn how to market for franchise consulting. You know, it's the one resource that I probably relied on most heavily with Business Alliance is, you know, knowing that there are a multitude of people that are smarter and more experienced than I am that are doing this every day and doing it well. So I reached out and relied on the expertise of others that were as successful or more successful than I am in the industry. I went to school on them. So you also have the ability to change your marketing all the time. You know, there's all kinds of things that are continuously evolving in the marketing space. You know, we used to buy internet portals, you know, in the beginning, and now marketing has become much more social media engaged, and even that's changing. So again, it's exciting for us older guys to keep our gray matter exploring new opportunities. So I learn, and I'm continuously trying to evolve myself by learning new techniques and new places to market. So it's never boring on that end either. Yeah, there's always new things to explore and get excited about.
And as a person that's owned businesses before, is it rewarding for you to help people on their path towards business ownership?
Yeah, I think you hit on 1, 2, and that would probably be the third thing that gets me up and going to work every day. You know, I've been fortunate in my business career that I don't have to work anymore. The thing that I just absolutely find so personally gratifying is, you know, when somebody says, "Geez, Mike, thank you. I couldn't have done this without you." You know, candidates that we work with are almost universally never end up where they started, you know, with us, because we show them things they've never seen or heard of before, and we help them evaluate their goals on a much deeper level. And we have access to the industry information that they don't have. So, you know, if we don't know more than they do, then they don't need us. So our value comes from life experiences and having the ability to find information that is not readily available. So, yeah, as an example, I'm working with a lovely couple from Argentina now. They're buying a business in the United States. It's their life dream to come to the U.S. Why? That's another story. But it's exciting for me. I get great satisfaction, and you know, in January or early February, when their visa is approved and they have their business and they're here with their family, I think that's just great.
What do you think the benefit of the franchise model is to an entrepreneur who never owned a business before, or a person who's retired and looking for a new opportunity?
Yeah, and that, Mike, it's pretty simple. We never, ever, ever start out focusing on brands or franchise concepts, and there's thousands of them out there. We spend our time working on helping a potential business owner or a candidate, as we call them, to evaluate the business model. There's lots of franchises that we represent that will fit a specific business model. And the business model can be, whether they want to work Monday through Friday or they have no aversion to working Saturdays or Sundays, the type of employees that they'd like, their financial needs, their financial investment levels, quality of life issues, and their role in the business. There are folks that want passive ownership, others want owner operator. So we spend most of our energy on the front end trying to evaluate the best possible business model for them. The easy part comes, then finding brands or franchise concepts or partners that we work with that match them and their business model. So our energy is spent on the qualifying piece of it rather than people think they're going to sell franchises, and that's couldn't be farther from the truth.
And are you having a lot of conversations with people who are making a life change, who are, especially in the wake of COVID-19, a lot of people are furloughed and out of work, and the jobs that used to feel stable and certain are no longer stable and certain.
Yeah, COVID has rocked the world, and there are lots of folks out there that, my opinion right now is they kind of fall into two buckets. There's people out there that are trying to buy a job, which is fine, and many of those jobs grow into larger businesses, and they become multi-unit owners, and they're wealthy people with empires. But the fear of not being able to feed your family also feeds many folks into looking at business opportunity, because in many cases there are no jobs available. So that's one bucket, and it's they tend to buy differently, think differently, and look at different types of opportunities. I will tell you, on the flip side of that, there's a lot of other folks that are seasoned business owners, entrepreneurs by nature. There's an awful lot of built up cash reserves that are out there that people have been saving their money. So there's a lot of more investor type people that I find in the industry now that are not averse to buying larger scale businesses, multi-unit. It's a great time to lay the foundation for business ownership now. And some of my most successful businesses were spawned during other recessionary periods, where things were awful, but that's some of the best times to get into being a business owner, because as the economy rebounds, and it will, it's always cyclical. So whether it's a month from now or a year from now, when the economy comes back and the pie gets larger, you've already got the foundation, and everybody else is trying to play catch up.
And who succeeds in this role, do you think? Who's the ideal franchise consultant?
You have to be totally honest, and if the candidates are usually in a fairly emotional state, they're out of work, they're making significant lifestyle changes, and if they sense for any reason that you're being dishonest or salesy, I want to sell you a franchise, they're going to run for cover. So honesty and your integrity is probably the most critical business value that you have. Life experience is critical. You have to be able to talk intelligently about what the value of owning a business is, as opposed to hanging out and trying to wait for that job to come through. So there's a big difference emotionally and how you run and deal with your life, being a business owner versus an employee. So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
Yeah, for sure. And that leads directly into my final question, which is, why is now a good time to become a franchise consultant, and specifically, why is now a good time to join BAI?
We have a unique role. There, as I say, tongue in cheek to many of the candidates, is you can explore franchise or business ownership on your own, and that's there's plenty of people that do that. But with over 4,000 franchise brands out there, trying to explore them one at a time can take you years. It's fraught with peril. There are so many pitfalls, and quite honestly, not every franchisor is going to have their best interests at heart. So the last thing that I want for anybody that I work for is to have somebody get sold a franchise. So why is the role that we offer is that nothing we do costs them any money. I mean, so all of our services are free to the candidate, and we can help keep them off the rocks and avoid the pitfalls that are many in this industry, and avoid them getting sold a franchise. So these are marriages. These are long-term agreements that people sign on a daily basis. And if they're not sure, and they get sold a franchise, there's not a lot of room to exit out gracefully. So we spend a great deal of energy trying to help them make the best choice for them, not for us. And that's where our value comes from. There is a robust need for our services in the industry. And again, how we are able to present our value to somebody really is the first order of business with any candidate. They have to understand that A, nothing we do costs any money to them, and that B, we're going to work tirelessly to help them make the best possible decision for them and their family, not for us. We're not going to sell you anything.
Well, I really enjoyed speaking with you today, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Likewise. It's my pleasure. BAI is a wonderful company. Natalie Barnes is highly respected in the industry, and our franchise partners will tell you that they view the Business Alliance as head and shoulders above any other group that's in the space. So hope it helps. Glad to
of
be
course.
able.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.